And okay, sneaking in here at the beginning, I wasn't going to be releasing this as an asset, but it seems actually pretty useful. You can just drag and drop little blowing ribbons and things from the asset browser straight into your scene to add life. I think that's pretty cool. So I gave it a little bit more attention. All you got to do is save the blend file into your asset browser folder, wherever you've set that up to be. And I'm not sharing the simulation data because that would be kind of big, but it's really easy to do on your end. Just select any of these objects here, go under the physics properties, and go down to the cache folder here, right there, and click Bake All Dynamics, and it should just bake everything all at once, save the file, and you're good to go. Hello, I'm back in Port Orchard. I missed you guys. Let's see. Past month, moved back to Port Orchard, which was a bigger project than I expected. But it feels really good to be back. I want to show you. Also, in the workshop, there's some new things happening that I really want to talk about, but not today. Other interesting thing was just, normally I'm working on a bunch of different things at once, and so when I'm done with one thing, I just kind of step into, like, you know, the back burner project and make that the front, you know, so stuff's always happening. But with the move, I kind of just shut down everything, and so I sat down the first day and I was like, all right, what are we working on? Nothing. So I had to kind of get that motivation, that momentum going again, which just kind of started making lists of everything I should be working on and poking at that. And actually, this is a little bit irrelevant, but the big thing I'm working on right now is the next generation of the photo scanned kind of digital doubles. When we were doing the boat shoot, we set up this photo scanning room, and after an actor would come out of wardrobe and makeup, they'd go in and Nathan would give him a little scan using the delighting techniques and all of that we found over the past few years. And I'm finally digging into all of that stuff, and the doubles are coming together really good. It's kind of the dream workflow. Like, what I wanted to be able to do a straightforward scan and turn them into a rigged digital double really fast, and I can do it in like 15 minutes now, including hair. And Nathan came up with a little system so like the hands aren't all that tricky to set up. So I'm working on a new pack that'll be released for you guys before too long. Along with a bunch of new mocap data. The new Rococo mocap suit works a lot better for, like, it can do elevation changes. You can have hopping up and down off of stuff, and walk cycles work a lot better. Before, the accelerometers would interact with, like, the rebar in my concrete floor, and so I couldn't really do walk cycles, which is why everybody was just kind of standing. But now I'm actually able to have people walking around. Did a little render last night, added some folks to an old shot, and this all came together really fast. So yeah, honestly, all the tools are just kind of coming together right now. There's the photo scanning and the mocap, and also just rendering. You know, Blender can always render faster with every update, and the hardware's always getting faster. So the shots I made like a year and a half ago that were these big old renders that now I'm kind of looking at being like, I can just re-render this. Is there anything I want to update? So I'm giving everything just a little bit more attention, and that's been feeling really good. But yeah, I'll definitely be talking more about these digital doubles pretty soon here. And the hair, setting up the hair like this, really fast and easy. I mean, it's just a really basic hair particle system that you kind of comb back, but I can go through the process of doing that if anybody's curious. Again, just super straightforward. There's this thing I know I've talked about in the past, which is just kind of like a passive environmental action. Things that are happening in the background that just kind of bring some life to the environment. Lights blinking, grass blowing in the wind, you know, banners, streamers, plastic blowing, clocks moving, waves crashing on the shore, smoke blowing, you know, steam coming out of vents. Anything just kind of adds some interest, and it's something a lot of my favorite directors, you know, like to put into their cinematography. Ridley Scott, Kurosawa, Tarkovsky just have these very environmental things always kind of happening. And some of these things are really hard to do in Blender, but other ones are very easy. And I've started making libraries. Like on this shot right here, we've got these embers floating. Those are literally just a collection I can add to any scene now, and have embers going whenever I want to. And I've really been enjoying having these kind of pre-made little physics bits I can just drop into the scene, because like it takes 10 seconds to set up a cloth sim, but for whatever reason it kind of throws off my flow every time. So instead of like having to stop and set up the whole thing, having just a blend file full of all these little plastic sheets and stuff, and I can just append these into a project at any time. So I've just been doing that for kind of static shots, just to add a little bit more life to all of them. Today we're going to go through and make a little library like this, just full of pre-simulated plastic sheets and stuff that you can just easily bring into any of your projects. I don't know if you can bring animation cache simulation data into the asset browser, because that would be really cool if you could just drag them from the asset browser. And it turns out you can, so Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just making some drag and droppable little physics elements. Oh, okay. This is gonna be fun. Here we go. And let's start by making kind of like a strap, like a flapping strap. I just think that could come in handy a lot. Like in this shot here, I haven't done the animation on the riders yet, but having some sort of little strap coming off from the luggage in the back, I think could really kind of help make the whole thing feel a little bit more dynamic, and it should be really easy to make. So we want to start the world origin here. I'm going to create a plane. And the thing to keep in mind when you're doing physics stuff is that scale does matter, because like gravity has a consistent speed. Things fall at a certain, accelerate downwards at a certain speed, and our brains kind of know what that is, which means if you do a simulation at one scale, but then shrink it to like 25% of that, the thing is only falling a quarter as fast as it should, and our brain's like, hey, that's not right. So in this case, each unit here is about a meter, which means a person would be about, you know, like this tall. So I'm going to shrink this way down. I'm going to do that in edit mode here and make it really long, maybe, yeah, like that. I'm going to make it so one end is right here at the origin. Control R, add some edge loops on this axis, however much you kind of want. A few more this way. Yeah, and so the other thing with physics sims is that it is actually the number of vertices that adds like the mass. Like if you have a plane here, this is only going to have a mass of 4 vertices, whereas if you subdivide it a bunch, now it has, you know, turn on statistics, it have 1,000 mass, and you can set what that mass is per vertex in the cloth settings later. We'll get to that. Anyways, that's the other complicated thing to kind of keep in mind. So we've got our strap here, and it's easy as anything to set up the cloth sim. Just go under the physics tab, check cloth. And if you hit play, there we go. It's clothing, but there's nothing to affect it right now, and so it's just falling into the void forever. So let's attach one end of it. That's called pinning, and so the rest will kind of flap, but one end we can affix to whatever we want. And we do that in the cloth settings by going down to shape and selecting a pin group. But right now we don't have one, so let's add one in the data properties here. Create a vertex group, and we can call this whatever we want. Let's say pin, and if we tab into edit mode and just select these vertices here, we can assign them to that group. And now if we go back into the cloth settings and go pin, and now when we hit play, look at that, it does what we want. So let's see, what should we do here? I'm gonna hide this away really quick because I want to explain some stuff. So here, let's go M to move it into a new collection. We'll call this strap 1, and that will appear up here in the outliner. Here, let's move that, and if we uncheck it so it's gone, that's great. So okay, let's create a plane here, tab into edit mode, scale y-axis 2, and control R, add an edge loop, select everything, subdivide, yeah. And remember that each one of these squares is a meter, and so, you know, this is like the height of 2 people. It's a big old plastic sheet. We're gonna do the thing where we select this edge here, assign it to our vertex group. Gonna go into the cloth settings, make it cloth. It falls into the abyss, but where you say, come back, we've pinned that one edge. So now it kind of does this thing. Actually, let's rotate this so it starts off already kind of hanging from this edge here. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. Let's talk about wind. Wind is cool, but it doesn't do everything that we need. So here, let's have it just blowing right into the sheet, and you usually want these things to be pretty strong. And it looks like it's working, but after a while, everything will balance out. Like the force of the wind and the blanket trying to settle means it'll all just kind of become static, which isn't really what we want. And sometimes I'll add a little bit of noise to make the wind kind of change direction, which I might do in a second. But first, let's just talk about turbulence. Force field, add turbulence. Turbulence is it's a global noise. It's like a global kind of pressure system of high and low pressure areas that the cloth will kind of try to conform to a little bit. Like, let's see, if we change this strength here, you can see that the cloth, well, let's maybe even turn this up a little bit. You can see that this noise is attached to the empty here, but if we just let it sit, everything will kind of try to settle just and become static in that pressure system. So this isn't really all that useful either. So to get realistic wind, I like to combine a turbulence moving in the direction of the wind along with a wind force field to get the stuff to billow, and together it kind of introduces enough randomness to make it kind of feel realistic. But first, let's talk about scale. So you can see right here, this was always confusing to me because the size is set to 0, and if we change this to 1, nothing changes. That's because you can't actually have noise that's set to a scale of 0. And so by default in Blender, I think 0 is just assumed to be 1, which means I don't understand why you wouldn't just make the default size 1, because it's confusing. But you can see here, it's kind of each unit is a little bit of like a curve kind of thing like that. And if we change this to 0.5, you kind of get 2 per, I don't know, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's a good way to think about it a little bit. And if we change this to 2, suddenly we'll just get like one big arc that kind of covers the whole thing. So that's how that works a little bit. In this case, I want these to be small, so let's change it to like 0.5. I'm going to turn the strength up maybe even more. Actually, let's do a bigger size. I'm gonna go here, hit I to add a location keyframe, and go a few frames later and move this along the direction of the wind. Hit I again to add another location keyframe, which means now this is animated like that. If we hover over these keyframes and hit Shift E, we can extrapolate it forever, so it will just keep going on and on. And you notice the blanket is kind of doing a cloth thing, but it's also just kind of, it's just kind of undulating. But if we go in and we add our wind here, just kind of replicate that previous setup. Let's turn the strength to like 555. Together, this should actually feel like sort of like a wind. And actually, if we change this so it's not exactly on axis, kind of like that, then it's less likely to reach an equilibrium. It'll keep kind of like billowing a little bit. So this is feeling okay. I might turn this up again to like 1500. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. And let's add a little bit more randomness here. I'm gonna slide open the graph editor here, grab this guy, hit I and add a rotation keyframe. I'm gonna find the axis here that rotates it up and down, which I think is this one. Yeah, select that. I'm gonna go into this little hidden side panel, select modifiers here, pull it open, and I'm gonna add some noise, which gives it some jitter. I'm gonna make it bigger and stronger, and now, there we go. Now we're getting some nice random billows and all of that. And it's working okay. Let's select the turbulence as it goes in the distance. Let's try making it smaller. Ooh, yeah, okay, now we're getting these little tiny wrinkles. I think that works really cool. Let's make sure it's shaded smooth. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so let's delete that. Let's go back to our strap here, and let's see what these forces are doing to this thing. It looks like surprisingly little. So here, I'm going to select the strap, and I'm going to turn the vertex mass down quite a bit. I want this thing to be really lightweight. And even still, I guess we just got to turn this wind up like crazy. Is that good? And the turbulence up maybe, you know, quite a bit too. And here, let's just rotate this so that it starts, yeah, with the pinned edge facing already in the right direction. Another thing I don't totally get, there's the noise here in the wind, but if you turn it up, things don't really change all that much. Like maybe it's jittering a little bit more than if we turn it off. But by and large, I'd rather try to get any sort of noise effect with the actual turbulence. Here, let's turn this up even a little bit more. Just go absolutely crazy. 9,000. Yeah, that's feeling good. That feels like it's dragging behind some sort of fast vehicle. That's pretty interesting. And actually, let's grab this guy, and let's add some noise to this too. Let's change the scale to... just turn it up a little bit. I just want this little thing to be going every which way. And yeah, here, let's line this up perfectly with the origin of the world. Yeah, that's basically it. Here, let's create a new material. We'll call this strap, give it an image texture, load in something. Yeah, we'll use this beige bit right here. Go to the UV editor. Cool, gonna tab into edit mode, hit U, unwrap, and yeah, that should probably work great. Let's see, how's that look? That's nice. I'm gonna turn down the specular. I could probably turn up the transmission and the roughness too, just so light can shine through it just a little bit. And okay, there it goes. Okay, now we want to bake it. We want to lock in this motion so we can just bring it in. It'll always be exactly the same. We're gonna go back under our cloth settings here, and we're not. You notice how if we start it right here, it kind of takes a few frames to go from this into actually working. I want it to be starting from frame 1, so I'm actually going to start the simulation at like -30, and I think simulation data is fairly small, so I'm just going to get 1,000. It's too many. Let's do, I never have a shot that's more than like, 700 frames. So let's do that. We're going to bake it. Now I'm going to select the strap 1 collection, right click, duplicate collection, and let's call the first one strap fast because it's whipping around pretty good. And I'm actually going to uncheck it, turn it off, get it out of there. We've dealt with it. This one's going to be strap slow. And I'm just going to turn down the wind to be, you know, something maybe 3,000 a little bit. Yeah, maybe even more than that. Something like that. And I don't want it moving quite as much. I want it to be a nice kind of gentle thing. So let's turn the strength of the turbulence down to like 2,000 and the size up a little bit so the billows are a little bit bigger. But there we go. Now we have kind of just this gentle floating ribbon instead of something that's going absolutely crazy. I'm going to select that. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Bake it. Now I'm going to duplicate this one, and let's turn off that and call this one tassels. Why not? And so I'm going to go into edit mode here, duplicate all of this. Dun, dun, dun. We're going to do a whole bunch all at once here. Ooh. Yeah, that's kind of nice. Yeah, let's bake that. Oh yeah, I like that quite a bit. Okay, so how do we put this into the asset browser? There's already a million asset browser tutorials out there, but let's do one more. Go under Edit, Preferences, File Paths, and you go down the bottom, you can see Asset Libraries, and there'll be some sort of library in there. And the path here is where that library is stored on your computer. And right now I happen to have it directing here. And inside here, I have all my different blend files that have all my different assets in them. They're all just in kind of this one location. So we're going to save this file to this folder. Here, I'll just copy this here. File, save as, and make sure, yeah, we're in that same folder. We'll call this straps. Great. And here, let's open up the asset browser under here. Where is it? There we go. Asset browser. And we can actually make all of these folders into individual assets. So for tassels, I'm going to right click and say mark asset. And for strap slow, I'm going to say mark as asset, mark as asset. And if we go under unassigned here, you can see, here we go. We've got all of our different things, and we can just drag them down into here and do whatever we want. It's really cool. And if we want to organize it, let's open up effects here, click plus, or here. We got to go into user library, I think. Go under effects, click plus, and let's call this straps, and we can just drag our unassigned, and I've got a lot of unassigned, so I'm going to go back into current file, don't worry about it. I'm just going to drag these down into straps, make sure I save, and the asterisk goes away, and now whatever project we're in, we'll always be able to just have all of these different things appear, and it's great. Actually, okay, so tassels. Let's just talk about mocap characters really fast. And all right, so let's go back to our Sienna file here. I'm gonna change this to Eevee so we can see the physics stuff in real time. I haven't figured out how to make the hair look good in Eevee yet, just because I'd never actually render in Eevee anymore. But here we go. She's dancing. Let's add some kind of flamboyant, you know, cowboy tassels off of the forearms there. How do we want to do this? Well, first we want to change her to rest position, because that will be the position that the tassels are originally attached to her arms in. And I'm going to create a plane here. I'm going to tab into edit mode, rotate this 90 degrees, and let's just model some tassels here. Make it nice and long, shrink it down. Yeah, Control R, add a bunch of edge loops here. Great. I'm going to select all of these faces, go select, checker deselect to select every other one. Make sure we're in individual origin so I can scale each of these selected faces up a little bit. Going to go to edge selection mode and delete everything, or unselect everything but these very bottom. Come on, let me deselect these. Yeah, there we go. Can deselect everything but these bottom ones, and I'm just gonna extrude them out a few times. Actually, let's do a lot of them. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Big old long tassels. That's great. Okay. So I'm gonna go over here, and in edit mode, I'm gonna line these up with this forearm here. Yeah, that looks good. Make sure it works on both axes here. And do the same thing over here. We're going to select the top edge of both of these here, create our vertex group. You're familiar with that by now. Assign this, go into cloth settings, select our pin group, and to attach it to her, all we have to do is select this and then shift click on the armature and hit Control P with automatic weights, and ideally this should just attach up here to her forearm. Except it does matter the order. If we go under modifiers, you can see it's calculating the flow of the cloth before it's attaching the cloth to the armature, which means you'll get flowing cloth and then it'll, it's just not going to work. So we want it to deform with the armature first. Then on top of that, because it's going down the list, it'll calculate the cloth. And if we select her and bring her back into her pose position and hit play, look at that. She's got her wonky tassels going. That's really fun. Here, let's create the right material real fast. I'm just gonna click some random bit of brown on her like that. And they're going a little bit crazy right now, but let's try going into the cloth settings and turning up the air viscosity a little bit, kind of see what that does. We could do stuff with collisions and everything. I like to avoid collisions when I can, just because they take a lot longer, and a lot of times you can't even really notice if things are colliding, but this could be a good case for that. Looks like they're not totally attached to your elbow here. But yeah, look at that. It's just a great way to add detail to something. I like that. Okay, very last thing. Let's do some billowing plastic. Okay, we're back in our scene here. Let's create our usual little deal. I'm gonna line up the edge with the world origin right here, make it a little bit big. This is gonna be a big piece of plastic. It's, again, person's like that tall. But here, let's do that. Subdivide, 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 and we can even do, we can keep going for days. But let's stick with this, line it up on this axis too. Do our thing, assigning this to the vertex group. Go to the cloth, down to oh, this can go so fast. And this feels okay, except it feels a little bit heavy. I kind of do want to do that kind of translucent painter's plastic kind of feel. So I'm going to go up to here, turn the vertex maths down to like 0.05, and what does that do? My guess is now it's going to be blowing way too much, so I'll have to turn these forces down a little bit. Yeah, that's feeling really good, actually. And let's rip this up a little bit. Here, let's create a cube. Move it over here, tab into edit mode, right click, subdivide. Let's turn up the number of cuts and turn up the fractals here just to get this kind of warbly kind of mess. And I'm gonna have it intersect the plane here. Let's see, this is the bit that's attached, so I want this side to be the part that's all kind of tattered. So let's do this, copy and paste this a little bit, come up with some, yeah, we'll see how that works. So I have a bool tool enabled in the preferences, comes with Blender, so I can select this, shift click on this, and hit Control negative on the numpad, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's change it to fast. I don't know why fast is more accurate than exact, but it usually seems to be. It's nice that we have options though. And let's try fast. Okay, none of these work. The reason this is probably happening right here, we're having trouble, is probably with the fractals, some part of this is intersecting in on itself, so it doesn't know what side is inside or outside. So when you're trying to do a Boolean operation, it gets a little bit confused if that tracks. But if we get this down here, yeah, okay, that works great. I'm gonna move the cloth sim to be after all of these bool tools, and actually, I'm gonna duplicate this whole thing here so we can make a few variations of it really fast, ideally. So I'm going to hover over here and hit Control A, which applies all of these, which means these aren't even doing anything anymore. We just have our cloth, and it should, let's see. And yeah, that's looking good. So let's bake like 700 frames of this stuff. Bake. Looking good. Let's hit M, create a new group here. This will be called Plastic Sheet Large. Turn that off. Let's do the same thing with this one. Go to frame 0. If we drag it over, it should still intersect with, yeah, all of these guys. So we can create just a different pattern right here really fast. I like having it eaten like this because that means this bit just gets to kind of flop around at the end and look kind of interesting. Should we do something different with this? I might turn the wind speed down a little bit, just kind of make it more chill. Let's try bacon this one. And you can see you can really easily just make a whole bunch of variations on this. Oh, and canceling because I do not need 2,000 frames. Cool. And plastic sheet chill, I guess. And the only thing left to do is let's actually make this look like a little bit of plastic. So if you're ever trying to work on materials, you need some sort of environment. Here I'm going to go into cycles. It's just what I render in. Go into the world settings, change the color to an environment texture. We're going to load in an HDRI. Something with kind of some nice light and shadow. Yeah, this would be good. Okay, let's see, let's see. I could probably do the entire thing with just the, here, let's create a new material up here. And honestly, we could probably make the entire material right here in the principal BSDF, but I wanna try making it from scratch. It's just how I feel more comfortable. So a shader. So translucent would make sense because I kind of want that translucent plastic feeling. But this is so translucent that it just, I don't know, it almost feels diffuse. So instead, I'm going to do something kind of weird. Let's put in the refraction shader, actually. Plug that right in there, and it kind of looks like aluminum foil, but it's actually refracting what's beyond it. If we turn the index of refraction way down to something kind of chill like that, you can see it's just refracting the background. I'm going to turn the roughness up. And now you can see it kind of is a, it feels like that kind of diffused plastic. I think that'll be kind of interesting. Let's add a glossy shader here and combine them. I want it to be reflecting some of the environment, passing some of the light through, just kind of a mishmash of everything. And let's also add a little bit of a noise texture on top of all this. So here, let's create our noise texture. Gonna drag it into the normal through a bump map going into the height. Gonna change the distance like 0.2, I guess, and maybe, I know, dial this in a little bit. I'm gonna turn up the detail, and it's just adding a little bit of this kind of stuff going on right here. Maybe turn down the roughness. But right now, the noise texture is just kind of existing again in 3D space, and this is kind of moving through it. Like, imagine the noise is just kind of here, and as the cloth moves around, it's moving through that noise. So to actually get the texture to stick to the surface, we have to change the texture coordinate mapping from generated to UV. And ideally, that should kind of make it all stick. I don't even know if we'll be able to see. Yeah, you can kind of see there's that one dimple right there. It's definitely sticking on there. How does this look from a distance? Yeah, this actually looks pretty good. Maybe the noise is a little bit too uniform here. Let's change the scale down to like 2, and yeah, that's okay. We'll turn the strength back up. Yeah, that's fine. Here, maybe turn the detail up to 7. Cool. Let's turn on the other plastic sheet too, and give it the same material here. Link materials. Go to both of these, right click, mark as asset, and over here in unassigned, drag them down into blowing in the wind. Actually, I'm gonna move all these straps into blowing in the wind too. And here, delete this. That was just for the tutorial, but I've already got my own thing kind of going on. But yeah, that's basically it. So let's take our strap fast here, drag it down onto our luggage. For some reason it didn't snap to there, but that's okay. We'll just copy location and rotate it so it matches the right orientation here and the kind of the strap size. Parent it to the object, and while we're here, let's grab some large plastic sheeting, put it onto this crane. But yeah, it's kind of hard to see in the preview here, but I think that's gonna work really good. And ooh, rendered it out last night. That's looking good. I like that. I'm really excited to not be as scared of doing kind of like low level simulation stuff. That hair on top of their heads looks really good too. And I realized making this tutorial, I really do want to lean more into adding more hanging doobly bits hanging off of the mocap to people. Like, when you see them jumping out of the way of the car, they just kind of feel like a mesh that's jumping out of the way. And I think it wouldn't take all that much, whether it's like a purse or, you know, a necklace or something, you know, a bag that they're carrying that's reacting appropriately to physics, that you just parent to that, you know, the hand or whatever, to make it all feel just a lot more, you know, rich and interesting. So I might jump into doing that. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. Hopefully something in here is useful. I know it's a lot of basic stuff, but it's been really handy for me. So yeah, I will talk to you soon.